Hey everyone, it's Bill, and I wanted to give you a quick update on the show before I introduce the guest for this episode, who's Rick Shahum of the Troika Media Group. The next two episodes, this one included, are going to be focused on marketing agencies and how the relationship between client and agency have changed, as well as what agencies are doing to adapt to the new realities given the pandemic. The next episode that I'll release in 2 weeks will feature a former classmate and friend of mine, Madeline Robinson, who is a director with New Jersey based agency IdeaQuest. Following that, I'm going to be digging back into the facility space with two additional interviews. One with our first repeat guest, John Nemeth of AECom, and the second with Zach Klima, who is the CEO of Wait Time. I think that's going to be an interesting series. There's been some different stuff going on as we see some fans coming back, especially with the NBA allowing fans back in a limited capacity. So those will be good ones to listen to. I'm going to continue to develop some longer form series where I take a deeper dive into some different topics along the same lines of what I'm doing with the name, image, and likeness discussion. So keep a lookout for those. And if you have any topics that you think I'm missing or that you'd like to see me dive deeper into if I've already covered them, please let me know. Feel free to email me at wjbeachii@gmail.com and we can try to find some different things to explore. Now on to today's guest. Rick Shahum is the VP of Business Development in the Brooklyn office of the Troika Media Group, which consists of the Troika Agency in LA and the Mission Agency in London and Brooklyn. Mission is a communications company born out of PR and events that is now heavily involved in social and influencer marketing. Troika is a brand consultancy and creative agency that specializes in sports and entertainment media, blending art and science to create some great brand experiences. Together, their three offices function as a 360 global resource for brands and entertainment properties. Great interview. Rick and I have known each other for a couple years through some work we did in the past, as you'll hear when the episode starts. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you as always for listening. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of A Cup of Coffee with Bill. I'm excited to bring you today's guest. A little bit of an interesting conversation and a shift from college athletics and those topics that I've been discussing. But I'd like to welcome Rick Shahum from Troika to the show. Rick, welcome.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me. It's great to catch up.
Give the audience some background. Rick and I worked together, not directly with me, but I was involved when Major League Lacrosse did its rebrand just about 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was a really fun project. Stepped in really quickly. Major League Lacrosse had it was about 20 years in, and we're looking to rebrand, and stepped in and helped out and turned that around really quick.
Yeah, that was an exciting process. That was the first rebrand I'd ever been a part of, and a quick seeing how quickly that got turned around and how a lot of the elements were pulled together over the life cycle of it was a lot of fun to be involved with in the short
Absolutely.
time that I was in the company when that happened. But you mentioned the capacity that Mission and Troika have in the sports industry, and that's why I asked you to come on today, because you guys had three big projects that all launched during the pandemic. You had the Las Vegas Raiders. I had to catch myself there and stop myself
Yep.
from saying Oakland, but you had the Las Vegas Raiders stadium opening. You had the LA Rams new stadium opening, and SoFi came to you guys to help bring to life their naming rights to the stadium in LA. Um, Now, knowing not in the case of the MLL, but projects of that scale take a long time to get to the point where you're launching. And what I found fascinating and wanted to discuss today was you signed the contract to start this work pre-pandemic. The world's great. You've got all these ideas coming through the office with your colleagues, on the activation and the the creative side, and then February, March hits, and it's a complete shift in how you start to think about finalizing and bringing these things to life. Um, how how did that change that quickly? Because I had to imagine it was all hands on deck trying to figure
Yeah.
out how to still make these successful launches with very iconic brands that were, securing a big piece of the spotlight in the league during the off season.
Yeah, so I think there's two things that we had to recognize and acknowledge simultaneously. Is one, that things were going to there's going to be a gray area throughout the process as it relates to um, what communications are coming down from the league, what are the timelines, how does this relate to the fans themselves, and certainly the human element of it. What is happening to us as people, and how does this relate, and how are we working through everything that's going on in our personal and professional lives. So that was one thing that we had to recognize. But I think what really enabled us to be able to deliver successful programs for our partners was really the communication process, and nailing that down in the beginning, and understanding, as you said, that this is something completely different, and that if we don't button up the front end, it's going to leave a lot of variables on the back end. So really starting off with understanding clear goals and objectives as it relates to what it is that we're trying to produce and achieve at these absolutely monumental venues that I call space stations. I mean, it's just unreal how amazing these facilities are at this point. And then understanding what those goals and objectives are, and then doing all of the research that's necessary on the front end to make sure that we're understanding the really that ecosystem between the sports property, the team, the fans, and the partners, those sponsors. And I guess mapping it out, what we call the journey mapping of all of those touch points between the fan, the brand, and the sponsor, and analyzing how that overlays into this in-game experience or in-stadium experience. In case it's not even a game, these facilities will also be used for just incredible things, everything from WWE to Taylor Swift gigs, and just massive entertainment. I think football, well, there's only 12, 16 games that are be in there. The rest of 365 days, it's going to be used for other amazing things. So how do we map all that out and overlay that into goals and objectives, and then build that process, build that timeline, and then try to hold to it as much as possible? It's kind of from a high level there.
Okay. So when you look at the stadiums, but then the SoFi partnership with the Rams, what were the tripping points when it came time to redo the activation points? Because obviously that's a big piece of unveiling a new brand, is letting fans experience that.
Yeah.
Obviously, in some ways, you're still able to create a very rich and captivating experience for the fans at home in the various digital spaces. But obviously, there's still something left to the imagination when you're not able to go into the stadium. And I think back to when they built Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. I'd been to Riverfront Stadium, and then they built Great American, and I remember hanging on to that line of my grandparents and my dad, like, "Oh, why are you tearing down such a historic venue? This is where this is where this team played, and there's a lot of history that you're blowing up right now." But then going to that stadium and feeling the energy of that new design, you lose that. So how did you guys avoid doing that? Because I still think it was a very successful unveiling when it came time to show everybody what had been done and the new attitude behind the two teams. How did you avoid that, and what were some of the issues along the way?
Yeah, first and foremost, the story that you laid out resonates with me because I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, a very friendly Philly sports fan, and there is no vet, there is no Spectrum. All of those classic facilities are gone. So how do you create that experience for fans and bring them into the new millennium, if you will? So part of that was constant learning. So if you look at this 360-degree Oculus that is in SoFi in LA, that is brand new technology. So we have our process, the team has their process, the sponsor has their goals and objectives, but there's an understanding that we're learning together when it relates to such a so profound new technology. So it really is being able to integrate with some really talented people across all of those three properties, the team, the sponsor, and our team, to take that together and to map that out and understand what does this mean to the city, what does this mean to the fan, and having those higher level um, levels of communication that we're trying to get out from a comm strategy. And then I think as it is physically inside of the venue, we have a really good process as it relates to integrating that sponsor content within the game experience and being able to evaluate what that looks like from all different parts of the stadium. So, and then when are those different integrated pieces of sponsor communication deployed in the stadium? A first down is a first down, but first and third with when it's to 20 yards to go and you get that first down is different than getting a first down when it's the second. So what does that content look like? When is it deployed? How do we do that? All of that's taken into consideration. It's really great conversations amongst those folks to be able to build that and have that executed at the right time so that fan experience is optimal. And then, as you said, the fans aren't necessarily there. So it's being able to take what we have in stadium and allow the team to be able to deploy that. Some of that stuff, some of it they're saving for the fans once they get in there, but having that integrated into their communication strategy across digital, social, mobile as well. So it's really, big idea and then kind of channel agnostic as it rolls out throughout everything for the team.
Mhm. How has that changed the general relationship between a client and the agency moving forward? Because it seems now that everybody has a firm grasp on what needs to be done to successfully shift to digital now, whether or not it needs to be a full digital platform moving forward as the vaccines roll out and the general population is able to go about our day-to-day lives as we would have last December. But how has that changed the relationship? Because I'm fascinated by that as well. And has it forced you guys to think outside of, multiple boxes than you ever would have imagined, given what has happened this year?
I think there's a clear recognition for people in the industry, whether it's agency, brand, sports, that we're in a digital first world. And I think that let's not call them consumers or fans, let's just call them people. People that aren't immersed in our world, I think whether they are cognizant of it or not, they are in a digital first world. So most people get their information, scores, whatever it is, on their phones first before they hit the TV, before they walk in a stadium, and certainly now before they go to a stadium or an arena. So we're all aligned on that's what it needs to look like. And I think what I mentioned before, that journey mapping is really important in our ability to successfully help our partners, our clients, with that, with whatever it is they need. And in this case, these were multi-pronged, massive, in-venue, in-stadium projects. Whereas some folks come to us just for specific elements. It might be a new game open video for a team that has new logos, new marks, or some new players, and it's a dawn of a new era. So there's only one element that we need. But I think that journey mapping of understanding what is the very first touch point of a fan to hear about that team, or to relearn about that team, or be re-engaged with his or her fandom, and then how does that relate to the sponsors, so that these teams are able to make sure that they're maximizing revenue opportunities, so that they could have these amazing touch points for sponsors, because it's just not, we're not in the logo slap era anymore like it was 30 years ago. Partners and sponsors are doing really, really cool things. And although we hate the word authenticity, and it gets bandied around of, what that really means, but I think it allows, brands and their partners to get as close as they can to what that may mean for them on an individual basis. And really, I guess, tapping into that unique culture of that geographic area, that fandom, that team, so that we're speaking to those fans as honest as possible, and get those folks psyched for whatever it is that we're trying to get them psyched for.
Mm-hmm. Have you found the ability to take more risks when you're out talking to clients about trying to secure business? Have you and your creative colleagues been able to take some ideas that maybe in 2019 you would have ignored because it's just a little too far ahead of where people's comfort might be, but now it's just like, let's do it. Let's just see what happens. Have you found yourselves more comfortable pitching things that you otherwise wouldn't?
I think on the creative side, and this goes for both sides of our business, Troika on the sports media, entertainment side, and then Mission with consumer product brands. We generally try to deliver proposals in three different tiers, so that we're showing different creative extensions. Hey, we understand very clearly that this is what you want for your budget, and then here's what we believe would be truly impactful. And ideally, if we have the right time, to be able to show some thinking beyond that. So I'd say, yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily changed dramatically. I think it's something that we always try to do if we can, is push a little bit. And I think, what we have seen or have heard, and I've heard it actually just in this past week with some new prospective clients that we're speaking with, is that they have clarified and actually said, we want you to hold us accountable. We want you to push us. We want you to tell us no and let us know why. You're the experts in this. We want this. We don't want this to be a yes, no. We want this to be a conversation, and we want to be able to learn and share and grow mutually on that. And to hear that, I think, is really what people in business, whatever business you might be in, whether it's, sports brands, agency, I think that you want to work with people who are willing to grow and learn and do that with you. And I think that's certainly who I want to work with on a personal and professional level is, I heard recently, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
So I think that thinking of pushing the creative envelope is something that we always try to do, but I don't think there's anything that the COVID environment has necessitated that goes above and beyond that. I do think that budgets have shifted. Obviously, these programs were really large because they are monumental shifts for brands that represent not an immediate reaction or experience, but this is something that for the Rams and the Raiders is going to stand the test of the time for the next 20 years. These are amazing sports properties. The fandom is incredible. They're in some of the most unique cultural cities in the world, love them or hate them, LA and Vegas. And we were really cognizant of what was at stake.
Right.
I'll say that.
Yeah, and that's what I was intrigued by is it's interesting to hear you say that it's maybe shifted more towards the client encouraging the agency to hold them more accountable and press us when you think we're not moving ourselves forward the way we should be, because that's what you said they rely on you for. Because I've found that in my past experiences that it tends to be the client is very set in their ways. The agency knows that, and so they hold the line here, and they aren't willing to push on either side if even if they think they've got something there that the client's not considering. So it's interesting to hear you say if it may not be a complete risk takers environment, but it's interesting that it's shifted to, if you really believe in something and we're not seeing it, show us, tell us why we're missing the mark here,
Yeah.
which I think is a fascinating evolution.
And we're certainly beholden to budgets and timelines
Exactly.
and goals and objectives and overall brand restraints and things like that. But trying to be as open and honest and creative as possible is really the best for everyone. And again, not all those ideas aren't always absorbed and integrated and executed, but at least they're out there, and it gets people thinking, and it shows a little bit more of the ability to expand beyond just what the task at hand is, and I think that's just good for everyone.
Right. Exactly. Well, we hit on everything I wanted to. Like I said, this I didn't really have an agenda for our discussion today. I just thought it was, given that the NFL season's winding down and we've been able to see these amazing venues over the course of the year, um, the evolution from contract to what we saw on TV, there's a dramatic shift. And so I appreciate you sharing some of those insights from within the company as you were able to see them. So now I will jump over to three questions I like to ask all of my guests so we get to know you a little bit better. Rick, what are you reading right now?
I recommend a book called I Am Pilgrim, and it's a book a little bit about international espionage and takes into consideration the modern world. And I don't want to give anything up, but I thought it was incredible. It's one of those books where I'm kind of pushing on the author. I forget his name. Let's get going. Where's the next book? But I'll say I don't necessarily read as much as my fiance, who works at Barnes and Noble headquarters, and she's just incredibly knowledgeable about books and what's going on and what's new, and reading them not only for herself but also for to build herself around, to better herself within the company.
Mm-hmm. No, that sounds like an interesting one. I'll have to look it up further. Next question. Who are you following in or out of the sports industry right now?
I would say it's out of the sports industry. It's a gentleman that's on Instagram, and his name is Sean King. And I discovered him within the past few months during when we had a lot of social justice initiatives that were going on in some of the major cities during the middle of the COVID period. And I've been following his Instagram, and it's been, I would say, fairly eye-opening in terms of what's going on in the country that I might not see in the area or the bubble, if you will, where I live personally and professionally and geographically.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it interesting. It's interesting, at least, to take a peek at it and put your own thought to it, I would say.
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter. He's, obviously he's always been a pretty good resource to illuminate some of the things that, again, like you said, are within our bubbles that we might not be thinking about on a day-to-day basis, but, an excellent one to be following. And then last question, what do you have your eye on over the next 3 months?
So it's I would extend it a little bit, and I would say next 6 months. I'm getting married in July, and I'm off the market. I was originally supposed to we were supposed to originally get married in October of 2020, but the COVID restrictions kind of pushed that back.
Mm-hmm.
So just sending all of our positive energy and positive karma to the world and the universe. We have everything in line, everything's smooth and ready to rock and roll. Just need a little help from the universe. That's all. So
we'll get it done. It's out there. We'll get you guys hitched on the new schedule. Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, Rick, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. Interesting topic. Folks, if you haven't seen the new brands behind the Rams, the Raiders, what they Troika and Mission have done with the SoFi partnership and the Rams, really encourage you to check it out. There's some great work behind that, and I really think they capture the essence of what those areas are about while paying homage to the history of those teams. So awesome stuff. Rick, it was good to talk with you again, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Bill. Thanks for the kind words. Great to catch up. Talk to you soon.
See you next time, guys.